I'm still listening and learning. It's exciting to be around kids. What I've been able to unpack this morning is we've got a group of students that are just eager for us to pour into them everything that they need to be successful. So part of my role is ensuring that we've got those conditions and supports in place to ensure that all kids are learning at high levels.
The decision to give the notices to the couple of dozen folk in central office, what's that lead? What's that about? What's the context?
Maximum flexibility. We know that the magic happens in the classroom, and we want to be respectful of teachers, not only teachers, but all employees. And today is my first official day, but moving forward and making the changes, I think that perhaps need to be made based on John Hopkins' report and some of the observations. We've got to make sure that we have maximum flexibility. So this was an opportunity to increase flexibility in our long-term plan.
Do you envision, though, a much smaller, leaner central office?
Absolutely.
And how does the central office reorganization or slimming down, how does that affect outcomes for kids?
Well, we hope it positively impact. Our vision is to push resources and decision making closer to schools. Right now, that's the vision that I have, and I think when you look across the education ecosystem, systems that work, systems that are high performing, you have the resources closer to the classroom.
So those employees who got the notices may work in schools next school year as opposed to being based in the central office?
So we're not prepared to make that decision. We just wanted the opportunity. If that's the case, we needed to make some contractual decisions and based on the law and just based on respect for employees. So I can't make that decision right now.
What did you think when you read that Johns Hopkins report? Were you horrified, or what did you think upon reading it?
It was unsettling. It was unsettling to say the least, to know that children are in learning conditions that the Johns Hopkins report described. But it also created a sense of urgency like no other. Like, we don't have a lot of time to sit around and talk. We've got to begin to act now.
Yeah, there are 90 vacancies right now. Any immediate plans to fill those?
So I think we've got to be very aggressive around our recruiting. We've got to look at non-traditional ways of recruiting teachers. It's interesting because when we talked about that a few weeks ago, coming from a large school district that also had vacancies, when we go on the recruiting trails to the Puerto Ricos and to the Buckeye Bonanzas in Ohio, guess what? Miami's there. Tampa's there, LA's there, New York. So it's a nationwide problem, but we have to have a balance of growing our own, but also a very aggressive approach to going outside and getting great teachers.
Oh, I want to get a contract in place. I don't think we should be sitting around a table more than 2 months. This is urgent. And the union has made it very clear to me that they had a long negotiation and they're not going to do that this time around. So I'm expecting that we're going to wrap this up in 2 or 3 months. That's my expectation. That's how we're going to move forward. It has to be done quick. We have a sense of urgency here. Every time I walk into a school, my heart breaks. It breaks. Because he's right, the kids are waiting for us. We just went to a couple of schools. My heart is hurting. We don't have that time.
Commissioner, we've been hearing from teachers lately that morale is in the toilet. Is it time to change the narrative to a more positive discussion, do you think? Or
Well, I don't know what you mean by a positive discussion, right? Because to me, getting better is a positive discussion. To me, identifying the problems and tackling it, figuring out what the root cause is a positive discussion. I think we have to stop taking it personal and say, how do we improve? How do we look at where we are and how we get better? We have to set benchmarks for ourselves. What's our goal? This is not about targeting or blaming. This is about where we are and where we go. If we don't know where we are, we can't get somewhere else. And I think that for a long time, we've wanted to cover our eyes about where we are. And we can't do that. And yes, it's painful. It hurts. And it should hurt. If it didn't hurt, that comment makes me hopeful. Makes me hopeful because if it didn't bother people, then we would be in worse trouble than we already are. So this is about supporting teachers, supporting everyone to be successful. We can only be successful if we work together. But we got to own it, and we got to move on, and we got to say, what are we going to do differently? So the conversation about allowing him flexibility, that's different. We are going to be doing different. We are going to be making changes. There is no more status quo. That's it. And people have to prove, you want the narrative to change? Let's do things differently.